Parents of Reddit, what's the most elaborate lie you've ever told your children? My son would always wake up with a cow lick in his hair from sleeping. I turned this into an elaborate story about a cow that would sneak into our house every night to try and lick his hair because the cow thought it was a carrot. He's a redhead. Managed to convince him to sleep with a carrot for a few nights haha because I said the cow would eat that instead of his hair. Then each night either me or his dad would take a bite out of the carrot to prove the night cow had been. That is the greatest story ever. When I was but a young child, my father told me about the gride. At home we used the gride for one thing, to pick up dust piles off the ground, usually with a broom to help. I grew up and always assumed that tool was called a gride and never learned different. It wasn't until my sophomore year in high school that I learned the truth. I had gotten into an argument with my girlfriend's mother about what a dustpan was when I was helping her clean up. I went home later and asked my dad what the deal is with this thing. He told me it always made sense to call a dustpan a gride, because you have a groom and a bride. Therefore the broom must be accompanied by the gride. Still call a dustpan a gride to this day, just makes more sense. We told our daughter when she was 3-6 that her ears wiggle when she was lying. She walked around covering her ears up all the time. Picture a 4-year-old earnestly telling you something with their ears covered and elbows straight out. Yes, I washed my hands. Nope, that's not my popcorn on the couch. My daughter dropped something heavy on her toe and killed the nail. I told her that when it came off that the toenail fairy would bring her money if she saved it and put it under her pillow. My wife was not amused, but the toenail fairy pays a lot. Later she told her kindergarten teacher that the toenail fairy came and gave her $20. Heard about that one in a parent-teacher conference. It makes just as much sense as a tooth fairy. I work at a bank, and we've got a big jar of lollipops in the back table behind the teller line. It's very clearly visible, so when parents come in with their kids, the kids will always ask for one. Here's my favorite exchange that I've seen. Mommy, can I have a lollipop? No honey, they don't have them. But they're right there. No honey, they're not real. Hahaha, you can say that about almost anything. This is great. A friend of mine's parents told her younger brother that masturbation was an ice cream flavor that only came out every few years. He believed that for years. Would love to see that convo at the local ice cream parlor. Back when my youngest son was in elementary school, they were studying astronauts and the space program. One day my son comes home all excited about the astronauts that had visited the moon. This was a time when I was still a hero on my son's eyes and I wasn't about to give that up, so I nonchalantly said, "That's nice son, but I've been to Pluto." The next day he showed me a drawing he made about his dad going to Pluto and told me he was taking it to show his teacher. I had to quickly explain it was such a great drawing that I wanted to keep it. We put it on my closet door where it hung for years. He turns 27 this year and I still have the drawing, which we joke about quite often. Without missing a beat after breaking open a nest, my wife told our 3 or 4-year-old daughter that bees won't bother you if you're wearing purple. They hate purple. They calmly walked away, our little one in her favorite color, without a sting. Finally told her the truth at 12. Props to your wife, that's some next level situation management there. I couldn't keep clothes on my kids. As soon as we would get home they would strip and run around naked. It was funny when they were little, but they were getting too big for that crap. We have always told them that a bird would peck at their butt privates if it ever saw them. So one day I told my kids I bought a tiny bird that was now living in this decorative birdhouse I had hanging. I told them they better keep their clothes on or the bird would peck them. I even changed my text notification to a bird tweet. Every time my phone would tweet they would freak out about hearing the bird. Kept it going for at least 6 months until they finally stopped believing me. It worked though. They don't strip anymore, lol. I don't really remember this, but my mom says she told us boys that the eagle would swoop down and snatch it off. She likes to tell the story about a day we were visiting relatives. Us kids had been outside playing for a while when I ran into the house in a panic, yelling, "Mama, Mama, the eagle got Tasha's pee-pee." I always thought turning on lights in cars was illegal. I didn't figure out it wasn't until a post on Instagram making fun of how we were all told that. I'm 23. Not a parent, but for the longest time, I thought I had a rainbow betta fish. Periodically it would change colors. It took me way longer than I would like to admit to realize my parents were just replacing my dead fish. Please don't do this to any children you may have. Just care for it properly and it won't die. C. Not a parent myself, but my parents used to tell my brother all the time that if you do, insert your behavior of choice, now, then I swear that when you turn 18, if you still want to go to Power Ranger school then I will send you. He literally did everything they wanted like a grade A suckaroonie. Not super elaborate, but goddamn it's ingenious. We both grew up as good, hard-working, drug-free citizens. My brother doesn't harbor any ill will towards my parents for this, he just thinks it's funny. Dude, his teenage rebel streak must have been crazy when he found out. Not me, but my ex-girlfriend's dad told her the hazard lights were a button to eject out of the sunroof and I had to break the news to her. We were 15. My dad was a bit of a hooner. He told me the hazard button made the car go faster, so when I got to push it he would downshift and floor it. Eggplants grow from eggs. They didn't believe me at first. BC, I mess with them way too much. So I planted an egg and a week later replaced with an eggplant. Thanks for the tip. Gonna try this with cooking pots to make potatoes. I wait tables at a burger joint mall shop. Occasionally I wait on a parent who just wants kids to eat some food instead of ice cream. If I pick up on this I tell them we are all out, only have the gross flavors left. This works more than I'd care to admit. Yeah, well I think we have some garlic sherbet, and liver sorbet, and dark bitter chocolate with scotch bonnet if you like super spicy ice cream. I used to eat my boogers as a kid and my dad caught me and told me that boogers actually turn into snails in your stomach, and boom, instantly stopped eating my boogers and never questioned the validity of his story. Not a parent, but I told my youngest cousin that he had a limited number of words a day and after 1,000 words he would not be able to talk. Got my siblings and all the other cousins to play along since we were on a family vacation. He believed us for a solid week. We would all pretend like we were counting our words to make sure that we didn't hit our quota, because then we wouldn't be able to talk for the rest of the day. He went from the loudest, most talkative little kid to silent because he couldn't remember how many words he had said and didn't want to reach his quota. Bloody genius. Trying this with my lil brother sometime. Not a parent, but when we were still children, my father was once getting me and my sister excited about a day we were going to spend on the Isle of Wight. It was a few months away, so my father started putting his machinations into place early by telling us they spoke a different language on the isle than us English-speaking Brits. They spoke Whiteys. Whiteys? Why not? We were so excited by this, and so, naturally, my father began to teach us the basic words in the language, which he plucked from different European languages. Goten as good, we as yes etc. And we kept practicing with much excitement. He even showed us a newspaper article in the language, which, being kids, we believed as the pen marks editing the words didn't mean a lot to us. Then came the trip. My father, not realizing what he'd gotten us into, was testing us on this false language in the car, and once we arrived, did we want to go and see anything? Did we want food? No, we wanted to use our language skills to impress the locals. So we were about to run up to a nearby man and woman and start speaking that random fool's Esperanto, and my father revealed it was forced at us. Our hearts were broken and we have never let him forget it. TLDR. Father taught me and my sister a fake Isle of Wight language over a few months and we tried to use it on the locals. I once convinced my little sister that the official language of our country, Portuguese, was going to be switched to Ukrainian, so she had to learn it as fast as possible or else she would not be able to talk to her friends or go to school. She was terrified. My mother lied to me about her age until I was 14. She told me she was 10 years younger than she actually was. The mental gymnastics I played to add up timelines of where I was when my mother was away from college and other events was mind-boggling. My parents told me the ice cream truck was a music truck and it worked until one day I found out and ran inside and told them, did you know the music truck sells ice cream? I was afraid of the ice cream truck when I was little. I'd cry when I heard it, and one day my dad took me outside and lifted me up so I could see that there was ice cream and candy inside. I think he gets more excited about it than I do. That after their bedtime, my husband and I just watched the lounge clock until our bedtime. Our 3-year-old insisted on staying up one night and we committed to the lie for 20 minutes before she agreed to tidy her playroom in order to get out of watching the clock. She's not wanted to stay up downstairs since. Love it. We were walking through a crowded mall on our way to eat lunch with people at the Rainforest Cafe and I heard a train coming. The little train that goes right through the path of everyone walking then goes right by me and my 3-year-old. She loves trains and begged to get on it. I felt a tantrum coming and so I told her it was the timeout train. Only those kids being bad were put on it and she needed to behave so she didn't have to ride it. Problem solved. She behaved with no tantrum. My niece also loves trains and I'm pretty sure, in that same situation, she would have started being a little crap just to get out into timeout on the train. My parents once told me I could go to sleepover party if I could do 100 push-ups without stopping. I was 12. I did 100 push-ups and was crying from the pain. My dad said, "Wow, didn't think you could do that. You're still not going." Damn dude, that's nuts. As a dad I'd either been like, well, a deal's a deal. Unless I had uber sound reasoning. Like the dad was perv or something. One of my college profs told her children that the crust doesn't come off of bread. They retorted, "But our friends take the crust off their bread." She just replied, "Well, it doesn't come off the brand I buy." They believed her and never even tested it out. Not a parent, but today I was playing hide and seek with a kid. He was having a hard time finding me so I would walk out and sit where he started. He thought I was incredible. Then my genius self decided to tell him I had the superpower of invisibility. I feel great. Recently played hide and seek with a 6-year-old relative. I hid pretty well so it seemed like she wasn't gonna find me, so the next time she came around I went behind her and tapped her on the shoulder. I told her I'd been walking right behind her the whole time and I don't think I've ever seen a kid so amazed. I live in Texas and on the side of a major highway, there is a giant statue of the first president of the Republic of Texas, Sam Houston. When I was little, my grandmother got confused and told me that the statue was of Uncle Sam. I went for years afterwards believing that my grandmother's uncle had a huge statue on the side of the road. My parents told me that the reason that we never saw our relatives is because we moved. Nope. Come to find out I haven't seen any of them because my folks never really got along with them. I found this out about 2 years ago. Half of my relatives don't visit us because my dad married outside his race. And actually, just recently his aunt passed away and they didn't tell him the date of the funeral service until 3 days after it happened. They know he's retired and would have traveled for it. Not a parent and not really a lie, but whatever. My mom used to put my brother and I to nap and would tell us when the timer rings you can get up. She'd set the timer for 20 minutes. Too young to tell time. And wait for us to stop complaining and start falling asleep. And cancel the timer. My mom would tell me places were too far away when she didn't want to take me. Worked until I was 7. Then I'd ambush her with a MapQuest printout proving it wasn't as far as she'd claim. Told my 3-year-old daughter I have worked everywhere while exaggerating my work experience in a conversation with my wife. Soon after she started telling all of her friends at school that I have actually worked everywhere. Fast forward 4 years and I have been wikieing and googling my way through conversations from teachers, parents and her friends about my vast experience as a freelance photographer, helicopter mechanic and traditionally trained chef, all because I don't want my daughter to be embarrassed for believing her daddy was the hardest working human being on earth. I definitely don't want her to know I kept up this life for 4 years and counting. My plan now is to take like I've had so many jobs that I can't remember them all and stall until she forgets or gets married. Driving through the mountains when I was younger with my family, my parents always pointed out watch for falling rock signs on the sheer cliff edges, and then would proceed to tell us that falling rock was a little Indian boy who didn't listen to his parents, so his parents kicked him out and drove away and he forever wandered the rocky cliffs. They would even point him out. I saw him. He's wearing an orange shirt. We weren't even bad at listening. They just liked fricking with us. Can't wait to do that to my kids. I once asked my dad what the little bumps on the side of the road were for. It's braille for blind drivers, so they know what street they're on. Me. But how do they know about stoplights? Dad, when you're blind, your other senses get heightened. They can hear the pitch frequencies of the light colors that we can't hear. I tried to catch him on so many things, but he always had an answer for blind drivers, from screaming stop signs to accommodations for seeing eye dogs. I eventually figured out he was full of it, but it took longer than I am willing to admit. My girls were about 6 and 7 and had a pet mouse. He wasn't your normal everyday mouse at all. He could actually get out of his cage but wouldn't run away, just hang out on his shelf. If my girls were eating, they would give him a Barbie plate of whatever they were eating and he would run on their toy turntable like it was a treadmill. One day I went to clean his cage and he had died. They weren't home, so I buried him and tried to think of how to break it to them. One of my girls is extremely sensitive, and so I came up with a ridiculous story that I was cleaning his cage and he ran out the door because he had met a lady mouse and was going to have his own family. It worked. LOL. They were sad, but not nearly as sad as if they would have known the truth. Fast forward 21 years and in a conversation with my sensitive daughter I flippantly say something in reference to when your mouse died and she just looked at me and said, "What? He died? You just destroyed my childhood." For years I would imagine him coming back with his mouse family. Thanks, Mom. My father tried to convince us kids that the tigers in the zoo are as lazy as they are because they ate too much fries. He even invented the word pommes frites tiger, fries tiger, meaning a very lazy and sleeping tiger cat. I really believed it as a kid and didn't really question it as an adult. When I was around 20 years old, I gave my cat a fry. Is this the correct form? She ate it, started to go crazy and was running around in the backyard for 20 minutes. This was when I realized my father made this story up. That I wrote Charlotte's Web. Okay, backstory. When my daughter was 3 we would tell each other stories in the car. Made up short stories to pass time while on the road. Our version of singing, I suppose. Anyhow, I spin the web of a pig on the farm named Wilbur, the spider friend Charlotte that helped save him with the words and the web etc. The whole enchilada wrapped up in about 3 minutes. Then it was her turn for a story and it was never spoken about again. Fast forward to kindergarten. She comes into the living room one day with this book and is appalled that this author company had somehow stolen my idea. "Oh yeah, Dad, they have books and a movie. Everything we need to call." At first we didn't understand, then she enlightened us about the day in the car. My wife and I laughed and I of course spilled the beans. To this day every time we see the book or movie we reference the lie, and every now and then when we still tell stories in the car I will bring it up for a good laugh. She's 9 now, avid reader and young author. I guess storytelling runs in the genes. Some husband. I lie to my kids constantly, telling them outrageous and instantly recognizable BS to get them to laugh or look at me crazy. But the one lie I told my then 6-year-old daughter was that MIT was the Musketeer Institute of Technology. Teen Robotica was obsessed with a Barbie Musketeer movie and her goal was to become a musketeer when she grew up. I told her that there was a school on the East Coast that taught people how to be a musketeer, but they only take people who are really good at math and science. Wait till she gets an entire master's in engineering before you drop the bomb. I have convinced mine that they're bananas that grow in the tropics of Canada called bananadas. Just waiting for them to say this to their teachers one day. Make a post when it happens. Don't include any context. My dad used to tell us that the brown spots on bananas were sugar. My brother and I would peel our bananas and literally brag to each other about how much sugar ours had. Mine has 3 sugar spots. So, mine has 4. Now that I'm a parent, I think my dad was a freaking genius, and I can hardly wait to start using this on my daughter. I was the kid. My mother wanted a bit of my milkshake, and I told her, "No, Mom, it's not for girls." Not the best lie, but it still gives us a few laughs when it's brought up. That is why it only brings all the boys to your yard. Not a parent, but as a kid once I started whining and having a meltdown in public. My mum said I'd be arrested as a suspected terrorist if I kept acting like a little crap. This was shortly after 9/11 LOL. Have to say, it worked. My grandma used to tell me she was 110. I believed her until my teacher saw that age on a family tree I made. Bonus. My dad told me the recliner button on a plane turned off the plane's engines. My mum convinced me that the smell of pig poo is very good for humans' lungs and clears them out. My father smoked in the house and I was worried about my lungs. We used to drive past a very smelly pig farm every day. The stink was revolting, but I would always wind down the window and breathe deeply. This went on for years before my mum told me she had lied. I gave my niece a mental breakdown when I explained to her the possibility that she was a dog dreaming of being a human. Bro, it's too early to question my own existence. So, obligatory not a parent, I'm a preschool teacher. Recently I got a group of 4-year-olds to seriously question whether or not I shift into a bear after school and go to a nearby park, where I may or may not live sleep in a hollowed out tree. Pretty proud of that one. Also helped another group's teacher convince them their teddy bears had come to life, Toy Story style. My nephews still believe that I am actually a masked Mexican wrestler, which is why I am unable to babysit for them on Saturday nights as I have to go and defend my world championship. I told them this when one was 6 and other was 4. One is now 10 and the is about to turn 8, and anytime I see them they ask how my match was. I'm worried about the day when they ask if they can come and watch. You need to retire pretty soon. It's hard on the knees. Schedule your physical therapy for Saturday. My nephew, 5 at the time, got caught in the snack drawer and blamed it on his dad. My nephew has 2 moms and his dad is an ID number and a file of medical history. But my nephew went on and on about how he met his dad a few hours ago and he asked for some snacks on his way back home. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.